John Kelly will be leaving, but I don't know if I can say retiring, but he's a great guy. John Kelly will be leaving at the end of the year. We'll be announcing who will be taking John's place. It might be on an interim basis. I'll be announcing that over the next day or two, but John will be leaving at the end of the year. He's been with me almost 2 years now, as you know, between the two positions. So we're probably going to see him in a little while. But John Kelly, ready? Are you ready? So John Kelly will be leaving toward the end of the year, at the end of the year. And I appreciate his service very much. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, reaction once again. We're going to go straight to Kelly O'Donnell for the reaction on this. But as we were saying, it's been a very difficult, challenging relationship between the president and his chief of staff throughout. So no surprise. But the point is, and Michael brought this up earlier, who the replacement will be ultimately. That's so important.
A couple of things are surprising. We have talked about the turbulent relationship, the difficult tenure for many, many, many months. So that part's not the surprise. What is a surprise is the president would choose to announce it himself in the way that he did. As you saw it play out, we had not yet been able to prompt him with a question about it. He wanted to announce this. Of course, it's been reported, including by NBC News, that the end was near. One of the things we had been learning is because John Kelly is a retired four-star Marine general, the president did not want to be in a position of firing him, rather. So you heard him make that comment about perhaps he's retiring. Among those who are considered possibles for coming into the role is Nick Ayers, a 36-year-old who is currently the chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence, has been a long-time figure in Republican politics, worked on some big gubernatorial campaigns. He is one person who has gotten to know primarily the president through the relationship of Trump and Pence, but also the extended sort of network inside the Trump family, namely meaning Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump. People who work for the vice president, of course, are a part of the White House team, but Nick Ayers has been able to go back and forth pretty seamlessly, and that's something that has raised his profile. Will he be the choice? We don't yet know, but his name is certainly being talked about. There's also been discussion at times that Mick Mulvaney, who is the director of budget and management for the president, is some name that has been circulated as well. What will be a huge choice for anyone involved in this process is it the job that they think it is? And I think even John Kelly, on reflection, would see how much it may not have been what he thought it would be. Typically, the chief of staff is in charge of the entire executive office staff and is supposed to be sort of the great gatekeeper to the president. This president operates differently. We've all seen that over the last couple of years. And so what will that role be? What authority will it have? One of the things that John Kelly tried to institute was a firm grip on the Oval Office door, even to the extent of the president's daughter and son-in-law, who are senior advisors, not having walk-in privileges. That has been part of what we've seen. Also, our colleagues at NBC News reported tensions between John Kelly and the First Lady, so that certainly was not going to bode well.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.